Issues at Hand, WBS TV. Peter Kivazo, your host, with me, Honorable Nabila Nagai Sempala Kampala and Honorable Kavale Iganga. And we are talking a bit of those issues that sometimes only find their way into the media on grave days when a maid has battered a child and it's there. When a child is found in a home, raped, abused, and the society is in shock. Or when a mother has abandoned the child, thrown it in a pit latrine, or not fed it for a month or two, and the child is emaciated and on the deathbed. Or where I still have a bone to pick with Nabila, when a child is crushed by a municipal authority, city authority, killed, and the members of parliament, the whole whopper goes under their beds and hide and say nothing until the next child that is abused by a maid, and all of them stamp their foot and stomp, and I say, okay, this one has been beaten. It's painful, it's absurd, but the other one was killed, and they all kept quiet and disappeared. Selective treatment, conspiracy, whatever it is, I don't know, and I may never get to know. But anyway, those are the issues that we are talking, and I'm asking, do we need laws? Do we need to build social systems? Because when we talk about the penal code, we are talking about punishment immediately. The moment you talk about penal code amendments, talking sexual offences bill and the penal code amendment, immediately I go into the punitive mind, because that is what the penal code does.
What I think, Peter, society since the beginning, Adam and Eve, Nambi and Chintu, Mundu and whatever has happened with humanity, wherever there are people, they make laws. Call them rules. They become tradition. They become culture, because that's what they know will keep their society sane, safe, and cohesive. We cannot run away from today's society called Uganda. And for us to abscond and leave modern day Uganda, 21st century Uganda, to the norms of the 18th century, I think that would be absconding. So we are saying we need to look at the Uganda of today, 35 million people, with English as the national language, with Swahili as the second language, with our indigenous languages, with the capital city of 2.5 million people, with a growing urban population, and say we are going to depend on norms. Yes, the norms are shaped by the people who live in that geographical location. But we are saying now that we are here, and this is happening. If nothing was happening, we wouldn't talk about this. But something is happening, and something negative is emerging.
Let me get to specifics. What 2-3 things do you need amended in the that you're building into the sexual offences bill that we do not have covered in other laws? Because I've had my problems with Parliament and excitement. The other day you did a law on homosexuality and all the things that you were covering were already covered in other laws, and I was thinking, okay, but let's get to this one.
I think, Peter, I want also to be in defense of Parliament, our duty. Why shouldn't I? I'm in Parliament because I went there and I knew the cardinal role of a member of Parliament is to make laws. So we cannot downplay.
Make some redundant
we cannot downplay that cardinal role.
Maybe.
Like I can ask Peter why he has this show every week.
The laws are not redundant. That's why, in fact, we are here, because you are saying, why do you think there is need for a change? The reason why we are here is that we make laws, and some people supposed to implement the laws make the laws redundant. For example, the penal code sexual Act Cap 120 was made first in 1920. Then in 207 it was amended. But now the reason that it is not fully implemented is what makes us raise alarm that maybe there are some lacunas in that penal code. And why we are saying the penal code is punitive, but that the penal code comes out of legislation. Is when you make a law, you must say that, okay, in case someone fails to comply, these are the consequences. So sometimes I even tell people that the penal code should be rightly put so that people fear to make crime.
Even God has a penal code where people will go to hell.
But Honorable Kabale, I mean, that's the general.
Yes.
The sexual offences bill. What are you addressing specifically? And show me what isn't already addressed in other laws, because that is where my
The penal code, I'll just talk about why there was a need. We had thought previously as WOPA that we needed a separate law.
Yep.
Or the sexual offences bill.
Yes.
But we reached a compromise with the executive because they said they already had amendments in the penal code that were addressing specific
and they were yet
issues.
to be tabled in Parliament. So when someone is almost tabling, you don't table similar issues. So you leave government, if cabinet is bringing a paper for amendments, you can leave it and support it. If it fails, you bring a private member's bill. But now cabinet was saying we are in line with you. But now since it has taken time, we are in line with the cabinet, but it has taken time to bring on board those amendments which we need, especially the fact that prosecution of sexual offences takes long. And you know, with the sexual offences like rape, you must take to the doctor in a given hour. By the way, that's the difference between the land issue and that one of rape or theft. Because if someone has stolen or has robbed a certain company of money, the figures and the books will show. But with the rape, a person has limited time to prove through the doctor's recommendation that this person was
and tests.
And tests. So that's why we say, in case the law takes time by not being implemented, and this is a situation of life and death. I'm staying at my uncle who raped me. I don't have a shelter at police. When I take my statement, again I come back to my uncle's place. Is that justice? So we are looking at the penal code, if it is improved on, where there will be inclusion. What happens to a person who has reported? What happens?
So you need shelters for victims.
Yes.
That is why.
We need
Yes,
to
that's
also
one.
talk about why we need to bring up these issues. We passed the Domestic Violence Act, which was meant to really handle some of these issues. 2010.
A detoothed one.
Yes. But since we made that law, the violence in our homes has increased.
Terribly.
So we are following and saying, why is it? What can we do? And we're getting feedback. The good thing is that we are with this, police is with us on this. Justice, especially the prosecution department, we have champions. We have judges who are on course with us. But we have some others who are taking it lightly. Or say, oh, by the way, we have more serious business to handle. You're bringing sexual-related issues. We are saying that reproductive health, which is a very key sector in our system, is affected by sexual offenses. Reproductive health, mental health. You find that these are issues.
Hold here. You see, I don't differ with you, but I'm listening and thinking. If you're saying you're within the justice system, you have judges, you have magistrates that are speaking
not everybody.
the same, you have a number of them that are speaking the same language with you. You have the police speaking the same language.
They are picking up. We are still training.
So the jealous system, justice, law and order sector is on board. And I'm thinking, we have changed the laws, we have made new laws, we have amended the old ones, but the decay seems to increase.
Society has not caught up.
So,
Because that's very important too.
so is the problem the absence of these laws, and therefore we need to heap more laws, or do we need to open up and deal with other problems in society that may not necessarily be within the books of the laws that we don't need to legislate about?
Peter, I talked earlier about lifting the veil. Society needs to own up that things are not right. We don't need to hide behind the scenes. We need religious leaders to come up and talk about these things. We need traditional leaders to come up and talk about all these things. We need a mindset change. But as we are advocating and carrying out education.
One moment. Viewers, you can join the show or by calling into the show. Our numbers will be very shortly displayed on your set. Make your comment very brief. Turn down the volume of your set as you call in and make your comment very brief so you talk to us. Yes, go on.
We rarely come up in Parliament and I sit with Kavale. I say, you know, I think we need to make this law.
Yeah.
It is out of demands, proposals from society. Police will come and give us feedback. Oh, by the way, you need us to work on this, but there's a gap here. So we need to come back and bridge that gap. When we're talking about a law and its implementation, the prosecutors will tell us the gaps.
Yes.
Oh, the law says this. The time factor. When we take into account 48 hours, and this is happening, we are affected by this. The transport, poverty. Actually, poverty affects implementation of laws.
Yeah, but Nabila and Kavale, I need to look at this. One, you have a law existent currently.
Yes.
Which law and which clauses?
What is failing the amendments that were done in 2007? And that's very recent.
They've not yet been brought.
They have not yet been brought.
That's
the
why we're
delay is
demanding.
making
The
us demand. They are still in
But the
cabinet.
penal code was amended in
No, we
2007.
need,
Yes, it was.
especially sexual
but
offenses.
that particular area.
section was amended and given grit.
No.
Yes,
no.
it
But
was.
not tabled. Not
Actually,
tabled.
it wasn't tabled. We had a separate law, sexual offences bill,
Yes.
that we had wanted to be tabled in Parliament. And the executive came out and said, well, we have
The penal code?
a penal code. We have specifically amended clauses there.
Yeah.
And you need to wait. If we don't wait, we will discuss it and we will pack everything into that. And that's what we've been waiting for. Actually, we deferred it that's one of the laws that was deferred to the 9th Parliament.
Yeah.
Carried on. And we've been waiting. But you know, we should understand the constitutional processes of making laws. Where the onus and the mandate lies with the executive to bring laws.
Yeah.
If a private member wants to bring a bill, you have actually to pass through the executive.
You have
again.
to seek the...
Yes.
And in fact, it is always hard if the executive says we are having a similar version of what you want to bring as a private member. You must concur with them so that at least you give them time and they bring that so that we debate and make amendments on the floor of Parliament.
I'm listening to this. One, you think that we need special shelters
Yes.
for the offended against children, women, and even men that are offended against if they need the shelters.
What is even men?
That is
Say,
one.
Men.
That is one. Two, you need the processes. You need the smoking gun process moved. Isn't that actually abusing that concrete with no iota of doubt? Because part of why we have that smoking gun requirement, if it was rape, it was, is, you know, we will abuse it. Tomorrow, when I want Nabila out of Parliament, I will accuse her of abusing a little boy. And if we have softened the gravity of proof beyond reasonable doubt, and we can say you can go beyond 48 hours if it is a rape and sexual offenses particularly, you can go beyond the required 48 hours in police custody. If it is rape and this, we can soften on having appeared at a doctor's, then we are going to open it up.
Possibly,
abuse.
Peter, can I chip in a
We should not
bit?
get scared of opening up when we are trying to cure an ill in our society.
Yeah.
One, we cannot say what if, because there is what is.
Yeah.
Let the what if be handled, but what is must be handled.
Maybe to chip in a bit, Peter, you find that when they made that law in 1950s, issues like AIDS were not there. People were raping people and they were not even aware of their rights during those days. It was a few people who knew about their rights. But this is a situation where we should marry the penal code with the issues of
Hold
sexual...
on there, Honorable Kabali. Currently, under the law as is, if someone raped
Yep.
Anyone, a child, one, you have defilement.
Yep.
Then aggravated defilement is when they have raped and in addition to that infected
Yes.
the child, the victim, with HIV/AIDS.
Yep.
That is already catered for within our penal code.
Now, we recently made the HIV bill, which is an act. That HIV bill, I mean the HIV Act currently, if married into these amendments whereby they say even if he's a minor, given the HIV Act and the penal code, that person will really qualify for any court handling if those things move in tandem. But now, if there is the aspect of saying I'm a minor, I've been defiled, but there must be proof by my aunt whom I'm staying with, that creates a problem. That's why we are saying the minor must have a right to
You're
testify.
saying that the minor should be withdrawn from the custody of
The person,
Yes.
the guardian.
of the
Given
guardian
a shelter so
of
that
the
they don't
offender.
tamper with evidence.
That one I agree with the issue of shelter.
Yep.
It's possibly one of those that should have been introduced yesterday, not even today. But beyond the shelter, what are the other factors that have failed these cases from being prosecuted? Because it is not the issue of shelter.
I need to say that we have challenges as WOPA. So we are saying the delay
Yep.
in the government tabling that bill, the amendments, is affecting implementation of actually even the Gender-Based Violence Act.
Yeah, yeah.
We are saying...
Does that delay affect prosecution, the
that-
current
yes,
prosecution?
Inevitably it
Because
does.
if I have a file at police
there are gaps.
and someone has processed the file,
Yes.
what is delaying this file?
This is feedback. Because much as we are also urging government to expedite the tabling of these amendments, we are getting feedback from the implementers, that's police and what. Because now we will realize that what we are demanding for is, we are saying there should be political will, especially from government. Influential champions, ministers, the president, all these should be champions of what's happening in our society.
Yeah.
So we are saying that the political will...
Let
and
me
the
hear
right-
specific things you want that you
The
say.
specific
One,
things.
you've talked about shelter.
Uh-huh.
Two,
tabling
Now,
of the
person
bill.
in trust, you find it that in the interpretation, when you are handling such sexual offenses, there is what they call person in authority, person in trust, the gang rape. All those definitions are ignored in the penal code. Yet
That's
they are determinants in
That's two.
prostitution.
Three.
Then another thing we want is that the process should not delay, because what do we get as an
what delays the process? What delays the
implementation by judiciary? Because you find that
process? Does that need a law? Does that need a law? Because the only law we have against the judicial process
Yes.
being delayed is production in court after the 48 hours if you are arrested, the habeas corpus. Except that, the rest we rely
I'll
on
just say, Peter,
the hope of the judiciary.
let's look at the process.
That is now
Peter,
hope,
let's
hope
look at
which
the
has
process.
no-
Can you put a law against
Peter,
that
let's
and
look
say
at the
if
process.
case isn't prosecuted
Let's move
within-
away from what? Let's talk about why we are worried about the implementation. One, the process of proving.
Yeah, beyond reasonable doubt.
Proving
May
rape
take 2
is
years.
a tedious process. One,
What would you rather?
it is tedious.
What would you
The
rather?
police
Rather
report.
That the police report, one, we are talking about PEP being available.
Yes.
Where these people can be treated in case maybe somebody has passed on HIV. These people to be treated so that they can prevent the HIV infection.
Nabila,
We-
would you rather that we do not have the proof beyond reasonable doubt when it is cases of
we
rape
would not be
and
talking,
sexual offences?
if we would not be talking about these laws if the feedback was not from the judiciary.
Evidence. Yeah.
Well,
Because-
I'm taking a break, viewers. When I return, because I'm very worried about
Yeah.
this, I am true to the African polity, where bishops that have attempted to rise against presidents in Africa have been accused of rape, where in Uganda you have the president of Kizza Besigye accused of rape that in Justice Katusi's argument, judgment, that he says was an amateurish attempt at practically sending a man to the gallows. And you want to tell me in such a country I would remove the beyond reasonable doubt and offer to the wolves an opportunity to pick Nabila tomorrow? Don't go away.